When Emma walked into the Holbrook family mansion, the air felt colder than she remembered. The heavy oak doors closed behind her with a thud, echoing like a vault ceiling shut. Everything inside was too perfect: the polished marble floor, the towering chandelier scattering white light like ice, and the smell of old perfume mixed with money. It wasn't a home anymore, it was a museum of pride. Emma adjusted the slim leather folder in her hand, its surface cool against her skin. This is work, not family, she told herself. This is a transaction. She entered the grand dining room where her entire family was already seated. Her father, Richard Holbrook, sat at the head of the table like a king, his silver hair gleaming under the chandelier. To his right was her mother, Catherine, her face frozen in the same polite smile she had worn for decades. On the left sat her brother, Andrew, puffed up with self-importance, and beside him her sister Laura, scrolling through her phone like she was too bored to care. "Emma," Richard said flatly, not as a greeting but as a command. "You're late." Emma placed her folder gently on the table and replied calmly, "The meeting on the coast ran over." She took the only empty seat, the one farthest from him. Andrew poured himself a glass of wine and smirked. "We were just discussing real business," he said mockingly. "You know, buildings, not apps." Laura snickered without looking up. "Oh yes," she added, "Andrew just closed financing for our new expansion, the trifecta deal as Dad calls it." Their father's chest swelled with pride. "Eastgate Towers, Harborline Residences, and the new Rookery Lofts," he declared. "$40 million in total, and the banks are fighting to invest." He turned to Emma, his tone laced with pity. "Your little tech projects can't build a skyline, my dear." Emma smiled faintly. She had heard that tone all her life, the one that said she didn't belong. "Congratulations," she said softly. "That's a complex capital structure to manage." Her words hung in the air, unreturned. Catherine waved a manicured hand. "Oh darling, you're being polite. It's Andrew's masterpiece," she said proudly. "You should learn from him." Emma's eyes flicked briefly toward her brother. "Actually," she said, "that's why I came tonight. My company has done very well this year. I'd like to offer an investment." The table fell silent. Even the ticking clock in the hallway seemed to pause. "An investment?" Catherine repeated, her voice dripping with disbelief. "In what?" Emma met her father's eyes. "In the new project," she said evenly. "I'd like to contribute $300,000. It's a small position, but it can help stabilize your liquidity during the covenant period." The silence deepened. Then Andrew laughed, not a kind laugh, but the sharp, cruel kind that fills a room with heat. $300,000, he snorted. "We're talking $40 million, Emma. That's pocket change." Laura covered her mouth, giggling. "Maybe we can use it to buy curtains for the lobby," she teased. Their father chuckled quietly, his voice like gravel. "This isn't a bake sale, Emma. This is real business. Leave the money talk to grown-ups." Emma's face remained calm, though her fingers tightened slightly on the edge of her chair. "Of course," she said softly. "I only wanted to help." Her mother gave a condescending smile. "That's sweet, dear. Maybe you can help us pick the interior colors instead." Andrew laughed loudly, clinking his glass. "Yes. We'll name a corner after you, the App Girls Lounge." Laura burst out laughing. "Perfect. A tech-themed waiting room." Their laughter filled the room like the hum of machinery, practiced and cruel. Emma let it roll over her mind already somewhere else. "This is work," she reminded herself. "This is a transaction." Her father leaned back, satisfied. "Let's move on," Richard said. "Andrew, tell me about the Harborline board call tonight." Andrew straightened proudly. "Final compliance review at 7, he said. "Just a formality before Monday's drawdown." His arrogance dripped from every word. "Good," Richard nodded. "That means our first $42 million transfer happens right on time." Emma quietly checked her watch under the table. 6:45 p.m. The corner of her mouth curved almost imperceptibly. Her family thought they owned time. They didn't realize the clock was ticking for her. While they continued bragging about towers and marble, Emma slipped her phone from her bag and placed it on her lap, hidden beneath the tablecloth. Her fingers moved quickly, typing a short command on a dark interface. No flashy screens. No sound. Just a single coded line that only one system on Earth could understand, her system. She pressed enter. Execution scheduled, 7:02 p.m. She slid the phone beside her plate, face down, and took a sip of her water. Still playing with those gadgets? Her father asked mockingly. Emma smiled. Always, Dad, she said. They tend to build things you can't see, the kind that last. The laughter around the table returned, but she wasn't listening. In less than 20 minutes, the empire of steel and concrete her father worshipped would tremble. Emma glanced at the portraits lining the walls, generations of Halbrooks staring down, smug in their painted glory. None of them could imagine that the foundation of their fortune was already hollow. You know, Catherine said suddenly, you could have done something meaningful with your life, dear. Joined your brother, worked in the family firm. Emma met her eyes, her voice calm. I tried, she said. You said it wasn't my place. The old grandfather clock in the hallway struck 7. Richard raised his glass. To the Holbrook legacy, he said grandly. 40 years of building this city. Glasses clinked. The chandelier light shimmered. At 7:02, Emma's phone vibrated once, softly, against the tablecloth. It was done. Her coded order had just executed. The capital commitments, the loans, the safety nets her brother bragged about had all been pulled. The Holbrook empire was standing on air. Richard took another sip of wine, unaware that the ground beneath his name had already vanished. Emma smiled faintly. Now, she thought, let's see what happens when the real builder walks in. The first sound came from Richard's pocket, a sharp vibration that shattered the proud stillness of the dining room. He frowned and pulled out his phone, the color draining from his face as he read the message. What is this? He muttered. Then Andrew's phone buzzed, skittering across the polished wood. Laura's followed, then their mother's. Within seconds, the room filled with an ugly chorus of digital alarms. Catherine blinked, startled. What's happening? She demanded. Richard's voice was low and strained. It says, commitment facility withdrawn. Effective immediately. Andrew laughed nervously. That's impossible, he said. It's a glitch. I'll fix it. He pushed his chair back so hard that it screeched against the floor and stormed into the hall. Jim! He barked into his phone. What the hell's going on? The call is live, isn't it? What do you mean the board can't confirm the anchor fund? Get them on the line, now. From the table, Emma watched silently, her hands folded neatly on her lap. The chandelier light caught the edge of her water glass, breaking into tiny, cold fragments across the tablecloth. Laura was staring at her own phone, her hands trembling. Dad, she whispered, it's not just the bank. The internal team just flagged us. Our credit rating is under review. They say we triggered some kind of systemic risk alert. Catherine's voice cracked. That can't happen without a reason. Richard slammed his palm on the table. The cutlery rattled. There's been a mistake, he growled. We've done nothing wrong. We'll call the bank in the morning. They'll fix it. His tone was firm, but his eyes were frightened. Andrew returned from the hall, his face drenched in sweat, his voice shaking. They're gone, he said. The anchor pulled out. They've invoked a clause, something called a material adverse change. Catherine turned white. What does that mean? She asked. Andrew swallowed hard. It means the money's gone. Every dollar. The chandelier's light flickered slightly, as if the house itself was reacting. Richard was pacing now, muttering under his breath, impossible. We have contracts. We have history with those banks. Emma took a slow sip of her water. Have you checked the clause? She asked softly. They all turned to her as if she had spoken a foreign language. The MAC clause, she said again, evenly. Material adverse change. It's what gives your investors the right to walk away if trust is broken. Richard glared at her. What do you know about that? He snapped. This isn't one of your tech toys. This is real finance. Emma tilted her head. Is it? She asked, her voice calm. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you just lost your entire capital stack. Andrew was already typing furiously on his laptop, muttering to himself. No, this doesn't make sense. The anchor investor's name, Cascade Meridian Ventures, they're everywhere. They're in every filing. Every project. He looked up, his face pale. Dad, they're in Rookery, Eastgate Harbor Line. They control everything. Richard froze, the words sinking in like stones in deep water. Catherine's voice trembled. Who are they? Who are these people? No one answered. The only sound was the tick of the grandfather clock, steady and merciless. Emma leaned back, watching the unraveling like a silent observer. It's not about who they are, she said finally. It's about what they hold. Laura spun toward her. Don't be cryptic, Emma. If you know something, say it. Emma met her eyes, her expression unreadable. Every building you brag about is tied to a mortgage. Every mortgage is public record. Cascade Meridian holds the majority in each. They don't build things. They control them. They are the wind that decides which tower stands and which falls. Richard looked at her sharply. How would you know that? He demanded. Emma didn't flinch. Because I've read your filings, Dad. I know who your partners really are. Andrew slammed his laptop shut, his composure cracking. You're lying. You couldn't possibly. Check the records yourself, Emma interrupted calmly. Every UCC filing points to them. Every loan, every guarantee, every covenant. You don't own your empire. You rent it. Her voice was even, almost gentle, but it cut like glass. Catherine clutched Richard's arm. Arthur, she began, but her husband had already grabbed his phone again. Robert, he barked into it. I want names. Who's behind Cascade Meridian Ventures? He listened, color draining from his face with every word. Say that again, he whispered. Then slowly, he lowered the phone and looked up at the table. Cascade Meridian Ventures, he said hollowly, is registered under a parent company, Northwind Predictive Systems. Andrew blinked, confused. What? Emma smiled faintly, the smallest curve of her lips. That's mine, she said quietly. The room fell utterly silent. No one breathed. Catherine was the first to speak, her voice breaking. You? You're Cascade. Emma nodded once. For 5 years now. Andrew's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Richard sank into his chair, the weight of realization crushing him. You, he whispered. You did this. Emma met his gaze, calm and unflinching. No, father, she said softly. You did this. I just stopped holding it up. The air in the dining room grew heavy, like the weight of years pressing down at once. Catherine's hand trembled against her wine glass. You destroyed your own family, she whispered. Emma looked at her mother with quiet disbelief. Destroyed? She repeated softly. No. I kept you alive. Every time Andrew's projects ran over budget, I covered the losses. Every time the banks wanted reassurance, my firm provided it. You didn't build your empire, Mother. I did. I was the ghost in the books holding it together. Her tone was calm, but her words hit like hammer strikes. Andrew's voice cracked. Why? Why would you do that and then pull the plug? Emma's eyes turned toward him, sharp and cold. Because I wanted to see if anything had changed, she said. I came here tonight, offered $300,000, a fraction of what I've already given you, to see if you could treat me as an equal. To see if you could respect what I built. But you laughed. You always laugh. Her gaze moved to each of them, one by one. You called me the app girl. The one who wasn't real. Laura stood abruptly, her voice shaking. You're jealous. You've always been jealous of Andrew, of Dad, of this family. Emma's expression didn't change. Jealous, she echoed quietly. Jealous of the debts? Of the lies? Of the company you're too blind to realize you've already lost. She took a breath. No, Laura. I'm not jealous. I'm tired. She turned her attention to her father. You said real business is built with concrete and steel. But I learned something else, Father. Real power is built with systems. You build walls. I build networks. You move bricks. I move billions. Richard's fists clenched on the table. You're not God, Emma, he roared. You can't just walk in here and rewrite our world. His voice shook with rage, but underneath it was fear. Emma met his fury with calm precision. I don't need to rewrite your world, she said. I already own it. The chandelier light caught her eyes, making them look like cold fire. Every project you bragged about is under my control. Every loan you depend on reports back to me. The people you thought were investors are my subsidiaries. I didn't take your company tonight, Father. I've owned it for years. Silence swallowed the table. The sound of the clock in the hall was deafening. Catherine rose slowly from her chair, her face pale as paper. Emma, she whispered, please stop this. This is your family. We can fix this. Talk to the banks, to the board, explain this misunderstanding. Emma's expression softened only slightly. There's no misunderstanding, she said. There's accountability. You wanted legacy. I want structure. You can't build stability on arrogance and favoritism. Tonight isn't revenge. It's a correction. Andrew sank into his seat, staring blankly at the laptop screen glowing before him. This can't be real, he muttered. It's not possible. Emma took her phone from the table and tapped once. It's very real, she said quietly. His email chimed instantly. Open it, she instructed. Andrew hesitated, then clicked. His face drained of color. Ownership structure, he read aloud, his voice shaking. Rookery Lofts, controlling interest, Cascade Meridian Holdings. Eastgate Towers, Cascade Meridian. Harborline Residences, Cascade Meridian. His words faltered. All under Northwind Predictive Systems, primary shareholder, Emma Hale. Laura's gasp echoed like a breaking mirror. No, she said, shaking her head. It's fake. You forged it. Emma's tone was patient, almost pitying. Search the registry, she said. Every filing is public. Every document is real. The same way I used to be real when I asked to work here and you laughed. Laura looked down, her throat tightening. The silence was thick enough to feel. So, Emma continued, here's what happens next. I'm not here to ruin you. I'm here to restructure you. Richard's eyes narrowed. Restructure, he repeated slowly. You mean takeover? Emma didn't deny it. Call it what you like, she said evenly. Cascade Meridian will reinstate your funding, all of it. But from now on, it comes with conditions. Andrew's head snapped up. Conditions? Yes, Emma said. I take a permanent voting majority on the board. A full audit starts tomorrow. Your CFO is terminated by morning. And from now on, no transaction above $200,000 happens without my approval. Catherine stared at her daughter in disbelief. You'd fire your own family? Emma's voice didn't waver. I'd remove anyone who risks my investment, she said. This isn't personal. It's professional. You wanted me to understand business. Now you will understand me. She took a step closer to her father. And you, she added, will keep your title for the cameras, but not the power. The company will have a new lead director, someone who answers to me. The silence after her words was absolute. Richard's shoulders sagged, the fight leaving him. You've been planning this, he said bitterly. All these years. Emma nodded once. Planning it? No, she replied. Preparing it. You built an empire out of debt. I built a system that could survive without your arrogance. Her phone buzzed softly. She checked the screen, then looked back at them. The banks just confirmed the reinstatement of funds, she said. By morning, your accounts will be full again. But remember, the name on the papers isn't yours anymore. It's mine. The chandelier light shimmered across the long table, catching the trembling of Catherine's wine glass as she whispered, Emma, this isn't you. You're our daughter. Emma turned her gaze toward her mother, her tone steady but stripped of warmth. I am your daughter, Mother. The one you taught to stay quiet, to stay small. You said business was no place for me, remember? You were wrong. You built this family on control, and I learned from the best. The words landed like a verdict, calm and final, echoing through the grand hall that once silenced her. Andrew slammed his palm on the table. You think you can humiliate us and walk away, he shouted, his voice cracking. When this gets out, you'll be finished, not us. Emma leaned forward, resting her elbows lightly on the table, her composure unshaken. When this gets out, she said evenly, It'll say the Holbrook family entered a new partnership. You'll still have your mansions, your titles, and your cars. The world will never know the truth. The only difference is that from tomorrow, you'll work for me." The color drained from Andrew's face as her words sank in. Laura's voice trembled. "You're bluffing. You can't do this alone." Emma smiled faintly, not unkindly. "I don't need to do it alone. I built systems that think faster than any of you. By the time you wake up tomorrow, every contractor, lender, and partner will have confirmation of the reinstated funds, signed by me." She leaned back in her chair. "Your world is already running on my network. You just didn't notice when I flipped the switch." The room felt smaller, as if the air itself was closing in on them. Richard's voice was hoarse. "I founded this company," he said. "I won't be turned into a figurehead." Emma stood slowly, the sound of her chair scraping against the floor as sharp as the truth she carried. "You'll keep the title, Father," she said. "You'll cut the ribbons, give your speeches, pose for photographs, the perfect symbol of legacy. But the decisions, the numbers, the power, those are mine now." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "You once told me leadership is about control. Tonight, I learned what control truly means." Catherine's tears slid down her cheeks, trembling with heartbreak. "Emma," she whispered, "families forgive. We can fix this together." Emma's eyes softened for a fleeting moment, then hardened again. "You always said family comes before everything. But in this family, power always came first. I begged for a chance to belong, and you laughed. I begged for respect, and you called me silly. I begged to be seen, and you turned away. So no, Mother," she said quietly, "this isn't destruction. It's balance." The ticking of the grandfather clock filled the silence. It was 11:58. Richard's phone vibrated again, the sound cutting through the air like a blade. His face turned pale as he read the message. "They need your signature," he said. "The bank won't release the reinstated funds until you sign." Emma reached for her phone. "Then sign your part," she said. Andrew hesitated, but fear overtook pride. One by one, the signatures came, Andrew's, then Laura's, then Catherine's trembling hand pressing against the glowing screen. Only Richard remained. He looked at the phone, his reflection caught in the glass, the proud builder now small beneath the empire he'd built. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then, slowly, he raised his head. "Partner," he said hoarsely. His finger pressed against the signature line, sealing the transfer of power with a soft electronic ping. The sound lingered in the air like thunder fading into distance. Emma signed next, her calm movements closing the final chapter of the Holbrook dynasty. She dialed a number from memory. "Elliot," she said quietly, "execute all reinstatement orders. Activate the audit protocol. Remove Frank Peterson from the system. I'll take it from here." She ended the call and looked around the table. "The company is safe now. The money will be back by morning. Your employees will have stability again. You'll keep your comfort, your name, your reputation. But from this night on, everything you have runs through me." Her tone was calm, not revengeful, not angry, just absolute. Andrew sat frozen. Laura stared blankly at the tablecloth, the shimmer of her tears blending with the chandelier light. Catherine turned toward Richard, clutching his arm like it was the last solid thing in the world. Richard's voice broke the silence, low and hollow. "You've taken everything," he said. Emma shook her head. "No," she replied softly. "I've taken responsibility. You built towers out of pride. I built systems that don't fall. You taught me power was a man's language, and tonight I made it mine." She picked up her coat, her heels echoing on the marble as she walked toward the door. She paused at the doorway, the cold brass handle glinting beneath the chandelier's dying light. Behind her, the great dining room, once the heart of her family's empire, now looked like a mausoleum of broken egos. She turned her head slightly, her voice quiet but clear. "You once told me concrete lasts forever," she said. "You were wrong. Control lasts forever." The heavy oak doors opened, letting the cool night wind sweep in. Emma stepped out into the darkness, her silhouette framed against the pale moonlight. The door shut behind her with a deep echoing thud, not of loss but of closure. In the silence that followed, the Holbrook legacy ended, and Emma's reign began.